Good morning.
Let's go down to the waterfront,
Nice.
because this is definitely a waterfront kind of a car. So I think we'll just go back onto this, make it easy for us.
Yes.
Into town.
Yeah.
Welcome to Driving Ambitions. The whole idea is that we learn about really things that you've done that have put you in the position where you are. Obviously, you're CEO of
Crimson Global Academy.
And so I'd love to talk through that. And then a bit of your background with cars, because I know you've got one. So yeah, why don't you wind us back to the beginning, what you studied and how you got into your career?
I studied HR of all things, human resources. And that was really because I had this, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I always, from when I was little, had some kind of side hustle going on.
What was your earliest side hustle?
Selling sherbet at school. Then that evolved into, selling frogs at one point. I was breeding birds. I mean, there was always just something, I was from like five upwards. Yeah,
breeding birds.
Yeah, I set up an aviary and I sold birds. So yeah, I always had something going on. And then I found this sort of weird gap in the HR market. And it just seemed like one of those places where like, this is really how people do things. This is how this entire function works. I feel like I could do something different.
Yeah.
So studied HR. From there, worked in government for a bit and then not-for-profit, doing everything from HR, admin, ops, finance. I was IT at one point as an IT manager. Really eclectic and whatever through my hands to. And then I had a big break back in the mid 2000s. I can't remember the exact timing now.
Mid 2000s.
I'm not great with years. For when Chorus was going through Chorus Telecom.
Oh, that's right. They were splitting. They were selling yellow pages, right?
They were, splitting out to be from like Telecom. They had a UFA contract for Chorus, so they needed to split because otherwise that would be a monopoly.
It's a massive people project, right?
Huge people project. And so, sort of by chance, I met the head of people there, and she hired me as a tip. And yeah, then I got to go a week into the job, which he said, great, I'm going away for 1 or 2 weeks on holiday. So you're it.
Okay, so from temp to
sort of acting head of people, I guess, for that week, which just meant everything on the Chorus side to do with that project just sort of filtered my way, just for a short amount of time. She came back, it was all good, but that really, I just got this taste of startups and really fast paced, and we had a very fixed deadline. We had to split out the entire organization overnight. A lot of people growth, designing a company, setting up all the executive, the whole lot really. What you're doing in a startup now, but with a little bit more structure and legality behind it.
Speed and money.
Yeah. It's the dream really, if you can have those two things. So
it's amazing doing things with a budget, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So I got to learn how to do things really well from that. And over the 6-month period there, we went 200 people to 450 overnight when we got the all clear list. So we list on the NZX that night. All of the contracts then switched over, and from the next day we were a brand new company.
Very interesting. At that same time, I was working at Goldman's.
Oh.
So it was an interesting time in the markets, wasn't it? And of course, it was all leading up to the GFC and so lots of stuff going on. So huge people project.
And commercial regulatory project. Got to then stay on post that project and worked there for around 4 years, I think it was, working in the people space, but I did a bit of everything really as we grew from then that's 400-ish to about 1,200 over those preceding years. So doing everything from OD, recruitment, exec coaching, and then working really closely in particular with finance and technology and legal and marketing. My main groups that I looked after. And then when that was sort of coming up to sort of a natural end, it was 1,200 people. You become very process orientated. Naturally organizations slow down. They went, okay, well, what are they going to do? What are they going to do next? And it was just at that time where Xero was starting to make a little bit of a name for itself. They were, 500 people, very, very small office here in Auckland, maybe 40. And I was in Wellington at that time, that's where I was before. So I was, at the end of that forest journey, just to keep getting that adrenaline that I'm constantly seeking, I started some food trucks.
Some multiple, right?
Yeah.
But they're burgers.
Sliders, yeah.
Sliders
okay. And coffee, yeah.
Yeah, baby burgers.
Yeah, I had an amazing food truck. Her name was Darcy.
Yeah.
1970s Bedford. There you go.
Oh, wow.
No power steering. I had arms like Madonna. Steer around.
It's a good workout.
It was a great workout.
Yeah. Makes up for the eating all the sliders.
Yeah. So, I had those food trucks on the side, and then was in Wellington, met Xero, and went, oh, this is really cool. This has that, that pace, that energy. You get to do a bit of everything. And, joined them early-ish days. Sort of that 500 people through 1,000 people. They relocated me here up to Auckland, which at the time I didn't love Auckland. But now I've grown to love it. But at the time I was like, I'll give this a go. Moved up to Auckland, worked at Xero, and then went from Xero to Vend.
Right.
Yes. Leading their people side as they were going through an interesting transition.
So that's interesting. So you started off with one of New Zealand's essentially best known companies. It was really what had come out of Telecom. And then Xero, which was kind of the first of this modern type of startup. And Vend was kind of that was the new boy on the block, wasn't it?
When I look back at it now, it seems like, wow, I just joined some great companies. But at the time, these were, risky choices.
Yeah.
Again, people didn't really know about them. I used to have conversations with people and they go, Xero, what?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, same with Vend. And now most people in the tech system, most people know what Xero is. Vend, if you're in the tech space, you've probably got a good idea. But nobody knew. And I love what they're doing. I love their cultures, the way they work, can do things, from a first principles point of view, which is always what I wanted to design. And so joined Vend, helped them scale up globally. While I was at Vend, because I'd moved to Auckland and sold the food trucks, we went, there's a bit of a gap in the market up here, right opposite where we lived, for a burger shop. So let's open a burger shop. So we did that. While I was at Vend, we opened our first one. We now have 3. But that was again, I've always
tell us the name of those.
That's Burger Geek.
Burger Geek.
Yeah, so one on Simon Street, one over in Greylin, and one over on the shore.
I think that's, when we first connected, so I was talking to you about coming and working with us. I went there. I went to your Simon Street one. Yeah. And I remember I sent you an informal review of it, but it was very good.
It's one of those things, I want to promote it, but then also, you're going to get sent feedback. So
anyone who knows you is going to send it to you, right?
Yeah, they are. But I'm very, very hands-off these days, so I just click forward.
So you've still got those?
I do, yeah. 3 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, the last one opened last year. My husband runs them full-time.
Yeah.
And my job now is probably just giving opinions, if anything. So,
I bet nothing stops you from doing that.
Yeah, so that's quite nice.
Yeah.
Helping sort of refine new locations, sort of contract lease type stuff, and then, the actual day-to-day operations I'm not involved in. So that's been quite good.
It's the side hustle done good, right? Because you build it up until you don't need to do much at all. You could probably ignore it.
I could definitely ignore it. I, probably couldn't tell you what was going on this week across the site, which is the perfect model, as you say. So, I did that while I was at Vend, and then now it's sort of in early 2017.
Because the Vend went through a lot of changes around then, didn't they? Tell us about that.
They did. So I joined at the time when Vaughan was stepping to one side. So they founded the company, it scaled it, and then Alex Sala was coming in as CEO.
Yep.
So they were just going through that transition. They needed to be more commercial. They need to think about scale a little bit differently and really sort of hone in on who their customer base was and get things working.
Yeah.
Up until that point, there had been quite a bit of, there were hospitality, plus retail, and everything narrowed that in.
So bringing focus in.
Focus, yeah. Focus, refinement in the people space, and at scale. I always, when I think back, I really like that stage of startups that are scaling.
Because you throw things at the wall, right? You see what works.
Yeah.
And it's like, these wins are working. We should do that and less of this.
Exactly.
Right.
You've got enough customers and team that you can try a lot of different things. And you have that kind of optionality for what happens next. But see which ideas sort of take flight, sort of where you need to invest and what you need to stop doing, prioritization. You've got so many levers available to you, whereas, in the very early stages, you're just honing in on this one problem. I quite like that scaling. Things just a little bit more efficient. So then from there, I went and joined Jamie.
Now, how big were they at this stage? Because had they just done their first capital raise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they were Series A. Jamie had just finished Harvard at that point. I think when I met him, he must have been 21, maybe.
They need a bit of adult guidance, did he?
I really felt like the mum at a lot of points, or the older sister. So when I met him and Chandra, I vividly recall meeting them at a coffee shop, and they were asking a lot of questions about how I'd done things, what I was doing, and how I approached stuff. And I was just struck by, one, how smart they are. Because if you chat to them, you get that piece.
Yeah.
But then they were just so spongy. Like,
really?
You give them an idea, a suggestion, you sort of critique, or something they've done, and they're like, oh yes, okay, so we'd do it this way, do it that way. And I was like, yeah.
So they'd ask questions, they'd listen, and they'd do something about it.
And it was just having worked in, because all of those other companies I'd worked in, I was constantly the young person in the room.
Had you been doing the same? Asking those questions?
Yeah, definitely. Right. And, just trying to soak up as much. I had so many incredible people that I've worked with that I was always, the kind of younger person trying to learn from everyone and, trying to soak that up. And then I met them. I'm like, great, it's sort of this flip side. And now I have a chance to, help grow something really from close to scratch. And neither of Jamie and Chandra or actually I've never really worked in another place, so they hadn't been a leader before, nor really been managed before. And so everything they were doing, from how you set a budget through to hiring,
how to run bank accounts,
like everything was
interesting. So
scratch.
And what was your official role then?
My official title was Chief People Officer.
Right.
At one point involved a Chief Performance Officer. These days, I would make it
Chief of Staff. Sounds like.
Yeah,
it's a great role.
The terminology, when I look back on it now, that would have been probably the best, most reflective title, because I would jump in and, if there was something that needed resolved in tech, or we could take a handle on what was going on in the roadmap, did we have one? What were the blockers? I'd jump in and work with tech, or it would be comms or marketing. I ran some of the business units when we went through change. I would jump in on some of them, get involved with human A.
So it's very much, it's like the shadow CEO in a way, isn't it? Because when something goes wrong, that's when you're needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just jump into, and because I really kept that people focus, because we were growing so quickly, and that's what could influence so much of our growth. When we were launching and growing new markets, the key blocker to launching a new market is getting a country manager. And so we went from, in my first week, starting there, Jamie goes, great, we're launching 15 markets in the next 3 months. So, just trying to figure out.
Was that the first you'd heard of it?
Yep.
Right.
And I was like, right, okay, let's go. I'm going to find a country manager in Germany and Switzerland and the US, and we're going to interview them in this way, and we're going to have interview setups like this, and just try to get all the teams together, and then working with quite a great go-to-market team who were helping set up the first events. But really that people piece, getting the right person, getting them on the ground, was the sort of failure and success of those launches. So
there was a kind of a blended role. And how long were you there in that kind of multi-hatted role?
Probably about four or so years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, about 4 years. And that's when, what else happened during that 4 years? So we opened some more restaurants, of course. I started a consulting company as well during that time.
Yeah.
Because I was starting to build a bit of a brand, for want of a better term, around the sort of doing things in the people space differently and trying to be commercial and trying to be data driven and, thinking about the overall experience and journey mapping. So I was doing workshops in that space and training people on how to think like that. So I was doing that, and then I had my son when I was there as well. And that
So you had that flexibility kind of available to you, did you?
Yeah. I mean, I think in these companies, you're always on, so flexibility is, goes both ways.
You've been Crimson, you'd obviously enjoyed it and done so many things. What was the driver for you to move into that next stage?
At that point, we must have been maybe 600 people with around 2,500 contractors on top. And it was just getting to that point where it really needs specialists. So what I love is doing a bit of everything. But when, 90% of your day or 95% of your day is just becoming the people space, that's not really what floats my boat.
Yeah.
And
so when it's defined, it's less interesting.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. When you're just one specialty, I want to jump in and do a mix of everything. So it was getting to that point where it was becoming very specialist, which is what the team needed. Because by that point, 20 plus countries, all of the legislation that you have that goes with that, to make sure everything is compliant and you're building a really strong culture, you really need to be in that every day and not thinking about, other sides, what you need to do on the technology side, or where is our product going? You have a little bit of that because you're an exec, you're expected to, but it's not, where all your focus goes. So for me, I mean, I want to go back to doing a bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I had, during that time at Crimson, I had helped with that sort of founding team for the online school, and that was great. And that was just before I kind of finished up, helping get them all set up, which comes full circle soon. But I want to, just go and help founders. I want to do a bit of everything again. So who are those founders that are early stage that I could go and partner with to, do what needs to be done? So I met the No Issue founders.
Yeah.
I'd actually just started consulting, and then they were one of my first clients, and then I ended up joining them for 2 years.
Yeah.
Full time. So yeah, again, it was the role was chief of staff.
Tell us about No Issue.
Yeah, so No Issue is a New Zealand company. Most of their customers are based in the US, so very large US presence, but they're based here, and it's sustainable packaging. So sustainable branded packaging. You'd see it on the likes of, if you order shoes, they come in an Allbirds box, or the tissue paper that's really nice, they're branded. If you're in a nice boutique, going to a restaurant, and you'll see the food trays, everything that are branded. So bringing that really nice cohesive branding.
Yeah, right.
Then an e-commerce platform, you can brand it, design it, and get it shipped out to you as sustainable packaging. So they started and just had this huge growth. And I remember when I met them, just being so surprised that no one in New Zealand heard of them. I didn't even know how to pronounce the name. It's No Issue, but I thought it was No Issue.
Right.
As did a lot of people who I interviewed in the coming years, because they didn't really have that presence here. But they were building from here, and I always love that Kiwi founders from New Zealand
just targeting straight overseas, right?
Exactly. It's pretty incredible. So
2 years there, was it?
2 years, yeah. And then Jamie called. And Jamie and I have kept in touch over those couple of years, and had done the odd ad hoc thing for hits and doing some advisory work and the like. So I'd never really left, but
part of the family.
Once you're in, you're in. So Jamie and I would catch up whenever he came to town, and they kept in touch. And then, early last year, he went, okay, I think I've got it. So I was very clear with him that the next role I wanted him to be generalist. I was really targeting that, like a CEO role. I was ready to give that a go. And so he called to me. He's like, I've got it. I've got the CEO role. It is,
He'd been thinking about you. That's quite rare in business, isn't it?
Yeah.
That people actually think about what your needs are.
And think about your next role, right? I had an idea of what it looked like, and could have told him, and it's sort of every time we brought up, I'm like, it needs to be, this point of scale, and these kind of issues, and, this sort of opportunity. So when he called me and said, I've got it, I just went ready to come back. My son was at the age where that's a little bit easier to juggle. It's a little bit more independent, and that was early last year. It's been going phenomenally.
That is fabulous. Well, tell us a little bit about that, about the current role, and then I want to discuss a little bit about, there's a theme that I'm seeing, but tell us about the current role.
So I am CEO of Crimson Education. You've got the Crimson Education group now, and that was founded by Jamie Shan and St. Joe back in 2014 while they were all at university. So about 10 years now, but I think of it as more like 7 when I really started to kick up. So Crimson Education started with college admissions consulting, has then acquired tuition companies along that journey, and other consulting companies. So it's a number of different businesses within that. And then we founded the school, so the online high school, Crimson Global Academy, in 2019, which, if there was ever a time to come up with an idea and think of launching an online school, it was absolutely 2019.
For studying at home.
For studying at home. It was what seemed, like a pretty wild idea, and, to get ready to launch, and we launched March 2022. But we'd gone through all that process, registered school and, hiring our principals and getting everything set up.
And in the time, the market turned on like that, didn't it?
Yeah, we had 20 students in that first, about 20 students when we first opened the virtual doors.
Yeah.
And that just grew pretty exponentially, and we now have a little over 1,700 students studying in live classes.
And what range of ages and stages are they at?
Most of our students are high school, so in New Zealand.
So you're supercharging them for university admissions, are you?
Yes.
Right.
So we have some students that come in and do some supplementary with us, more on that part-time and intermediate, because they're looking to get that preparation for an international curriculum. The bulk of our students sit in high school, but I have seen more and more students come in and have that interest younger.
Do you form a funnel for the wider Crimson Education for college admissions?
There's definitely an overlap there, and sort of a nice balance of, students who would wish to go in and they can do that pathway. But we cater to a very wide range of students. Our students could be anywhere from, we have a lot of athletes. And I think the athletes is, professional ballet dancers.
Is that because they're out of school more, so they need some assistance? Interesting.
Yeah, they are taking it incredibly serious. We have a number of top.
That's an amazing niche, right? To be able to pick something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the tennis, we have a lot of tennis students. Equestrian, they're out training during the day or first thing in the morning, and they may be training 5-6 hours a day. And so otherwise they're missing school or they're trying to catch up after the fact, whereas with us they can pick some classes and some students might join for kind of a 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. class, organise a break in their timetable, and then log back on at, say, 2 o'clock. That differs for every student.
So you offer flexibility of times, and you allow this asynchronous style of learning, right?
So it's all synchronous.
It's all synchronous, right. Okay.
Which means that, we run multiple streams at different times.
Right.
We do have a little bit of asynchronous on our US curriculum. So we offer the A-level curriculum, and we offer the US diploma pathway, which includes advanced placement courses. And so we have a little bit of asynchronous on that side, but largely it is synchronous with a teacher, about 10 students in the class. And then we have options for the timetable. So students are building their timetable around them, or if there's not a group class that suits them, then we have students who study one-to-one.
So you've brought in a range of flexible options for people, I get. So again, you've brought in choice, and dare I say it, you've not exploited, but you've been able to take advantage of a gap in the standard offering, right?
Yes, absolutely a gap. When you think about standardized schooling, you're going to be there 9 till 3, Monday through Friday, 12 years. That's what you're going to do. But we have the flexibility of, the curriculum you study, and there's limited choice in other schools. We have, flexibility of the time in which you study.
I booked this one earlier.
Oh, nice. That's great. And then, there is flexibility also of how much you study, how many subjects, and what year level you study at.
Oh,
so
very good.
Placing students by ability, not age, means that the number of our students take a subject or more above the year level. So they can accelerate in maths, but maybe they're at this level in English, but 1 or 2 years ahead in maths, and we let them do that.
Apparently in old schools, and it still happens in country schools today, you'd have one classroom.
Yep.
And then they group people by ability rather than age, which might be, I might be a year behind in maths, but maybe in literary stuff, I'm ahead. So that gives some flexible options. Okay. So look, I've picked up a theme here, which is quite common. I find among entrepreneurs and executives, which sounds to me like you've been drawn to and then thrived in ambiguity. Would you say that's right?
Absolutely.
So talk to me about that.
I love ambiguity. There is this, I think it's just that satisfaction of, trying to figure out the messy stuff.
Order out of chaos.
Yeah. That to me is just that satisfaction you get when you solve a problem, and what people give you. And I find in my everyday, people just throw random bits of, problems at you, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what is the thread amongst all of this? And then how do we just break this down to the simplest form and solve that? And you just offer immediate satisfaction.
Isn't it funny? And so when your role, as you grew in Crimson Group, the large company, your role interestingly became more specialist.
Yes.
And that's when you started thinking, how do I grow myself, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and not everyone's like that.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people, I think, are going down a specialist track, or they love that. And absolutely, when I hired into my team, as I was looking, because there was a long conversation to go, okay, this role is not, where I see myself going. It's becoming more specialist. Let's bring in a team who, this is what they want to be doing every day. And so we hired a fantastic people team whilst I was sort of helping out in a range of different businesses units across the group. And that team loves the specialty, and they got in and did things that, I would have missed or, wasn't really thinking about, because they just had that, that narrower focus, which really worked for that stage.
And I think it answers that question a little bit. A lot of people think that executives end up in their roles because they know the answers, but that's not it, is it? It's, the questions.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things I notice is people are actually prepared to be brave and admit they don't know the answers. And that sounds like Jamie did that. Right. He was able to see that, he was a sponge and he had a good question structure, but he needed some answers, and found people to help him with that.
Absolutely. He always has that kind of right question, right focus. And I think for, any great exec or CEO or board member even, it's never that they are calling you out on a subject matter expertise. They've kind of seen things and go, what is that? Or tell me, and they just get exactly to the heart of the problem, ask questions, and then it just sort of opens up from there, which has been great. I think about the sort of people and culture into this role. A lot of the people role is coaching.
Yeah.
And so working with my team now is not to try and kind of catch them out on something. It's to just try and sort of unravel what's going on.
Someone said to me once that being a CEO, they said a couple of things, it's like, it's having all the answers and being the boss and all the kind of standard trite stuff that someone who's never been one would say. But there's a theme which is being prepared to step into the breach, right? Which is something's got to happen. We need to bring some order to this chaos. What I noticed with you is like when you put in sufficient order, you still felt that need. You're drawn to chaos. It sounds a bit negative, isn't it? But actually what it is you're drawn to the ability to deliver. Because I guess if you're in a situation, I don't think you faced it, but if you're in a situation where you're not able to do that, you also want to be held accountable and mostly to yourself. So what are the things? There's one theme there, but what are the things that you would say if you picked a handful of themes that you've seen through your, you're only part way through a successful career so far. What are the themes that you've picked out with yourself that have worked for you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've talked about that ability to ask questions. I would say there's the sort of ability to, just be comfortable being wrong. I find some people are really scared of that or quite risk averse, and in any entrepreneurial endeavor there is obviously risk, but you've really got to sort of feel pretty confident that whatever happens, it's on you and that's fine. And that just, I'm going to take mistakes.
I used to use the term blame sponge.
Yes.
Because blame doesn't help anything, right? So something goes wrong. It's like, okay, let's all blame me. When you're done, let's solve it.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people that I work with would be really uncomfortable in that. And I'm sure, that's a development area. But I find those people who are not comfortable doing that, they end up in a blaming other people situation, which is just not productive. It doesn't help anyone work. So you've got to be comfortable that I will take that term, the blame sponge, which is great. Like you're going to make, bold choices and take big bets. And at the end of the day, it's all on you. Like I think that's, you just got to have a certain level of comfort with that. And
I remember Roger Federer said, I think he'd won 9 out of every 10 matches that he played, but he'd only won 54% of the points. Oh, right. So you've only got to be 51% to be ahead of average, right?
Yeah.
So that is, here we go. We've got another person looking to join our video here. Right. No, we don't want that. We're just recording here. Thank you. Always lots of friends when you're doing this.
Nice.
It's all good.
Everyone wants to check out the car.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We should talk about that because then I want to learn a little bit about your background with cars. So we're sitting in a 2025 model SL63. The reason I bought this is because it's about as boss car as you get. This is an absolute weapon, but it's also the pinnacle of luxury and sophistication. It doesn't yell, shout at me, but as you stand next to it, it slowly grows on you and you realise just how awesome a car this is. Yeah. So it's somewhat over 500 horsepower. I haven't got the exact stats on me, but it's enough to be beyond what almost anyone needs. And it ties into a thing here. I think people buy cars like this as an emotional response. I don't think the very best, most amazing cars are actually logical. Yeah. And what have you found with the way cars make you feel? Because it's been something interesting for you. Yeah. Do you do it to do the shopping efficiently? Or is it a hell of a lot of fun? Oh. So I think there's, two phases to that. I love cars. They're a lot of fun. That is, and particularly when I was younger, like I would, driving for me was this great outlet. And, fast cars where you can sort of actually like feel the engine. That was amazing. And then I remember I met my now husband and the car was a 2-door car and it was just so impractical. To do the shopping, to get around, buying furniture. We bought our first house. You just can't really do much. So I had to sell the car, which was a shame. And then But you liked the car. What was the car? Oh, that was a Toyota Truno. Okay. Not the one with the flippy up lights. Yeah. But sort of back in that era of, the Skyline, the Sophia, WRX, Evos. The fast Japanese set. I was there. Yeah. That was good. What car? I had an Evo 2. Nice. Yeah. That was just, I loved those cars and sort of that era.
And then it became very practical. And then we have a child. It's like, okay, well, let's just get a SUV. And...
My kids, I have twins.
Yeah.
My kids came home in my Evo. Bucket seats in buckets. I wasn't prepared to submit to practicality. I did eventually.
Yeah.
I bought a Caldina
GTT.
Okay.
Yeah. It's still practical.
It's still practical.
So I'm still in I'd say the practical era, which meant that to go with the practical era, then I went, okay, well, I'll just pick up motorbikes.
They're practical.
Yeah, really practical. But that was my sort of like go for a joyride.
I didn't realise you rode motorbikes. What bikes have you owned?
So I had was it just like a Suzuki kind of 125?
Oh yeah, GN125 that everyone has.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The standard.
People buy it, get their learners.
Exactly.
Sell it.
So just that kind of learner's car. I've got my eye on, I think it's called a Grom. It's this tiny little bike.
I know the one.
Yeah, and for me, it just looks like a sports bike, and it's the perfect height for me. Other people use it to like wheelies and tricks on because
you'll be doing that.
Definitely, it's just. Yeah, one day soon you're going to see me, but I'm a little bit iffy on having a bike in Auckland. So
it's actually much better than it used to be because there's so many. When I was first riding bikes when I was university age, there was no such thing as a bus lane, that kind of thing. And I think there's more riders now than there used to be. And bus lanes make you much safer because you're faster than the bus. And there's a reserved area that cars can't go, and it's cars that really are dangerous. Because they're the non-professional drivers. Truck drivers and bus drivers, they're generally fine because they know what they're doing.
No, the bus lanes are great. I did have a scooter for a while as well. I had to, it's not really worth having a motorbike when you're riding 1 kilometre because just changing gears constantly for 1 kilometre is not very efficient. So I had a little Vespa type bike to get around, but can't really do school drop off and pick up on that. So,
no, I have done that. I used my motorbike. Yeah, I've got a KTM Duke 390, and I have done school drop off and pick up. Takes a couple of trips. Yeah. When you got twins.
Okay. Your turn is next. Wait.
But there was no complaints. Cheers. Sometimes rev the engine, Dad. It's a good way to be popular with your kids is have a hot car. So what was your first car, or the first car that you were excited about?
That was probably my Truno.
Oh, really. It was? Okay.
Yeah, no, before that I had like a, learning to drive, I think it was maybe like a Nissan Pulsar or something, just a sort of standard car, but the Truno was the first one that I...
You didn't have a hot Pulsar? A GSR?
No, I didn't have a good looking Pulsar.
They called it the baby Godzilla or something.
Yeah, no, this was very much, save up any spare money, buy a car for a couple of grand type thing, and then the Truno was the first, car that I bought.
Okay, so cars and bikes, you've had a bit of a box tick because you've got to get through, bit of learning, get started. Yes. When did they become a bit more fun for you?
Oh, that was so before the Truno, after the Pulsar. That was when I really got into the fast cars. I didn't own them myself. That would be nice, but I also think of just how much, it's the practical side of me coming out, how much it costs to replace tyres on a car if you're doing like drag racing or drifting. That becomes... Well,
why don't you tell us about that then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
You're just alluding to it there. We'll draw it out.
Yeah, no, back in the day, there used to be a hobby of mine. So drag racing or drifting, kind of more drifting, I would say. And that was in
your car?
No.
Friend's car?
Friend's car.
Right.
Specifically, it was in Nissan Sylvia.
Oh, yeah. They were very popular, weren't they?
Very popular.
Light and lots of power and only power to the back wheels, right?
Yeah, definitely. And so I was more friends with, I would use, friends' cars who'd actually gone to the effort of, making the cars as light as possible. And they would go to the weights and then try and remove like every extra seat and everything.
Yeah, the door cards, the winders even.
Exactly, just to make it like so light in these sort of rear wheel drives and then kind of go out on those. But I would never like the upkeep of that. So just enjoying riding around and driving those type of cars.
I love this because this serves no practical purpose.
Yeah.
And you did it, and I'm pretty much betting because you smiled as you said it. It puts a smile on you.
Oh, definitely.
So
how much is so fun about? It's just again that I think it's actually quite similar to what I kind of look from business. It's like an adrenaline. It's It's just fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna kick off, and we'll learn a little bit more about that, because it's beautiful, but it's hot in the sun, isn't it?
It is quite hot.
And this has a few different exhaust settings. This is
nice.
This is the louder one.
Yeah.
The beauty of a V8, and a little bit of body roll to remind you it's turning one direction, not the other.
Good.
And now we'll very gingerly navigate
okay, now we're
around
back to the comfort settings. I enjoy the driving in sports mode.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll be always a little cautious driving. Always a bit cautious driving, of course, but especially in someone else's car, you want to be very cautious, making good use of the excellent visibility. Yeah.
I drove over the weekend. I drove a car with no
reversing camera, was it?
And it just, you become so used to it.
You're like, what am I missing?
Yeah.
What am I missing?
I'm not going to give myself so much space, but then it's quite nice. You want to do it from a, just get some new neural pathways going, like learn some new skills, retrain your brain a bit.
I'm teaching my kids have learned to drive, but everyone's learning, and they are in particular, they're like, I'm good at driving. It's only the starting and stopping that I find difficult, which is a critical part of driving.
Yes.
So at the moment, backing, and I'm down, it's a short driveway, but it's easier to back. I find it easier to back out. So gave my kids a little bit of a lesson on that, but big mirrors, and he was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And he took the option. He said, Dad, can you back out for me? And I said, oh, okay. Then he came and said, actually, can I back out and you can tell me what to do? I thought, well, that's mature. And what that is, it's admitting there's something you've got to learn, but putting yourself in the place you can learn it, right?
Yeah.
So how much of this drifting fund did you have?
Probably only for a year or so. I would love to get back into it at some point. That would be I think I don't even know where I would drift. I guess you'd get to go to like a speedway. I probably need to have my own car.
Oh, you mean legally?
Yeah, legally.
Right. I bet edit that, but no. What's done is done.
How big is your driveway? You got a front yard?
No, I've something that's a lot of fun. They've got a few skid pans around the place. I've been out to Hampton Downs with Mercedes, actually, who lent me this beautiful car.
Yeah.
And there is nothing, I've never done it before. Yeah. There is nothing to make you feel like a complete beginner as going onto a wet skid pan on those, those plastic tires that have no grip anyway. And all of a sudden it's worse than skating.
Yeah.
It's like someone's just tossed you across the skating rink and you've got no control. And then to see what some people can do blows me away.
That's such a good skill. I remember once in Wellington just driving along the motorway, and the car that's driving 100 kilometers an hour, and the car in front of me slams on its brake. So I was about to go straight into it, and just that like muscle memory kicks in.
Oh yeah.
And I think I was in the Trudeau at this time, it was quite a while ago, and so I just like yanked up the handbrake. And just like spun into the lane next to me, and then like spun back out and kind of kept going. And I thought, it's such a good,
and you can't,
such a good skill to have. And like otherwise, I would have been like smacked back of that other car.
And you don't learn that in a single classroom session either. You own it's time in the seat, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the dynamics of the vehicle market at the moment. It's quite interesting because over the last call it 5 years, there's been active government promotion of electric vehicles and more economic vehicles, and overall the concepts I believe in, right? So, but what's happening is that people aren't buying electric vehicles, and it's not because they're not fast, because they are. I've driven some of them are wildly quick, but I think it's a different reason. I think it ties into this thing where people are looking, they think they're making a logical decision, but a lot of the time, I mean, let's admit it, if you buy anything other than a kind of a $5,000 station wagon, you're probably not making a purely logical decision, right? There's probably something else coming in. You might say, oh, no, it's logic, it's safety. But that's an emotional response to wanting to be safe for your children, etc. And so now there are changes afoot where car manufacturers are realizing that people do want to drive a car like this.
Yeah.
A V8 that's, you can just sit in the car and it makes you smile, and then you hear it and it makes you giggle, right? Have you experienced that with cars you've owned and driven, and
Yes.
you're like, this is not a sensible thing, but I love it.
Yeah.
Torino.
Yeah.
Overpowerful two-door car.
Totally. And then I got I can't remember what type it was. One of my first sort of four drives was a V6.
Yeah.
So much petrol, but again, like it felt good. It sounded good. And,
Yeah. Everyone mentions sound.
It's such a critical. If you drive a electric car, let's say like a Tesla or something, and it just doesn't have that same sound to it.
Well, it ticks functional boxes. You get that, and they actually make quite good cabs, don't they?
Yeah.
You guys own a Tesla. It's nice. It's quiet, and it's just typically clean and that kind of thing. And enthusiasts don't tend to go for that because they're really looking. They'll probably logic. It's like this thinking fast and slow. The fast response is an emotional one. The slow response is, how do we back that up with something that sounds vaguely practical? Right. Well, I've dispensed with practicality. I just go for fun now.
Yeah.
Which is why I find myself sitting in a car like this.
This is a fun car.
This is a fun car. And we've taken this is the amazing thing. This can do so much of anything. Put the top down, go for a beautiful cruise like we've done. But it's got a track mode, and it'll put all the vast amount of power down, and it'll time you and tell you how to do better on the corners. It's just got a list of almost every racetrack in the world. It's got Nordschleife, it's got Sachsenring, it's got Suzuka. You can Hamptons, you can make your own circuits on it. Yeah. Amazing. And that's all about having fun. So if you were gonna
driven to Hampton Downs, they haven't got driven for
I'll try and organise that. So I haven't quite worked out how to take my test cars onto a test track, but we'll get there in the end, and I'll let you know. You'll be the first to know. But if you were going to go out and buy a car now, what would be your thinking process, and what do you think you'd get?
So if I was going,
no constraints, no constraints.
Okay. Well, I've got a few like on the mind.
You need a large garage.
Yeah, I would need a large garage. There is from this one's the practical one, but a nice one is like the Pulsars are pretty nice.
Oh yeah.
Particularly because they have an audio setting that mimics that engine sound. So that sound,
yeah.
So you're still going to get the feel of it, but it's a very, very smooth drive.
Yeah.
But then if I was like no constraint, I was looking up the other day, and I was blown away because I thought, it'd be nice from a nostalgic point of view to buy like a Skyline.
Yeah.
Like the R34.
R34, yeah.
$250,000 for a Skyline now. So
have you noticed all of the cars that you wanted to buy when you were young? You should have. You'd be rich now.
I know.
Yeah, I should have kept my Evo.
Exactly. If the prices on that, because I thought that'd be pretty cool, that type of car. But second to that, assuming I could fit it out like a modern car, because I've become accustomed now to the sound system, the seats, all of those trimmings really would be like an American muscle car.
Oh yeah. What kind of one would you get?
It's like Starsky and Hutch. What one is that? Like,
I'm not sure. I'll pop it up on screen, but there's a thing about that 60s, 70s kind of, like, they were never designed to be practical.
Yeah.
They were enormous engines, often not even that powerful, but they made you feel good, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's maybe it was the Gran Torino, there was a Pontiac at the time.
Did you ever see a Grand National?
No.
Ugly car, but it was equipped with about a 7-litre engine.
Oh,
and it just went like stink.
They just are like that speedy look. They've probably got a stripe down the front.
Oh, yeah. I always had a thing.
Bright orange or yellow.
Yeah, it was so noticeable. I always had a thing for the Corvette Stingray.
Yeah.
And I've never driven the 72 or the 6972 is always the perfect one for me. I never got to drive an old one, but I've driven a brand new one, and that blew me away. Yeah. It was such a fabulous car. Such a fabulous car.
That would be as more manufacturers are making, nicer new versions of those.
Yes.
That's probably what I go for. Like some of the Jags coming out now, which are obviously new, but mimicking that sort of old style. Those are particularly nice, but horribly practical. So come back to me in 15 years or so once, Hunter's driving himself around. I mean, there'll probably be self-driving cars in New Zealand by then, one can hope. And then maybe I won't have one, so that would be my fun weekend trip car.
So answer me this, because the very reason for the existence of this show, I've found, it just happened because everyone I talked to in my circle of senior people, executives and entrepreneurs, everyone, almost without exception, seems to love cars and be into cars in some way. What is the connection, do you think? Are we just crazy, or we just love danger and it works in business and we have fast cars, or what is it?
I think there is something about that feeling of, this sounds really bad, like power and control, right?
Right.
You are, then there's something that feels particularly nice about, driving quickly, taking kind of charge of things. But then there's also just the mechanics of it, right? I mean, I think back to when I was early on in my teenage years, I wanted, at one point, flirted with being a mechanic.
Okay.
Which was, I think in hindsight, was just because I loved taking things apart, understanding how they work, putting them back together again. So, be it cars or computers, I was sort of agnostic at that time. I just wanted to build stuff.
Right.
So I think that curiosity about how things work, building it, and then just, driving it fast and having a bit of fun. And, I mean, everyone in a entrepreneurial exec role takes some risks. So it's just...
Is another part of it, you have a week, and it's often the weekend when you're in a high pressure role. When you get away from it, you need to do something that's really involving as well.
You can only focus really on, I mean, obviously you're having a conversation and driving, but you're sort of in this moment, right? And there's...
Well, with all the safety lane holding features on, and that's right, and at its regular round town speeds. But no, that's right. There's a, geez, I need to go and let go, and it might be a holiday. One of the other really common things with people that do this kind of role is they tend to be very successful at school. And so triathlons and, the iron events and marathon. I ran a marathon when I was CEO. And, I did it for fun and challenge. There's a challenge component there, isn't there? What do the next steps in your career look like?
Well, at the moment, very sort of early days on this, and have big plans to continue to grow the school. And we closed out a funding round that's announced 2 weeks ago.
I saw that. That's amazing. I think you hit, what's the valuation now?
1 billion.
Wow. I was at that first Ice Angels pitch when Jamie got up on stage. He looked about 12, which I'm used to because I look younger than I am. It
works out well as we age, though, just stay looking.
It's really bad when you're 16 and trying to buy a warm beer. But when you're my age and getting ID'd, you're pretty happy about it. Exactly. It hasn't actually happened for a while. But I'll tell you a funny story. The last time I got ID'd, I was buying broccoli and light beer. And they said, "Oh, can we ask for your ID set?" And I said, "No one who is underage is going to buy either of these two things." And they sheepishly smiled and then insisted on getting my ID, and then realized I was old enough to be their dad. Very good.
It's not a bad place to be, though, to be getting ID.
Yeah, well, it's an unspecified number of years ago now, but I found it entertaining. No, that's very good. So develop this. I'll put it a different way, because I can tell from talking to you, you're completely in amongst what you're doing and loving it, right? So, which is great. But what are the next challenges, the things that you think you'll see in future that will attract you?
So at the moment I'm due to submit this week, so I need to get that. So I'm due to submit my master's.
Oh, really? So you're studying as well? A master's in what?
So my topic is on how to use mixed reality to build community.
Wow.
That is my...
It's very Very topical.
Very topical.
Really interesting.
And it has this sort of nice overlap of all of the things I'm interested in, which is people, technology, community, social isolation, and just emerging tech. Because now, as you think about mixed reality, you can spin up environments using AI these days.
And are you using education as an example or a use case for it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So specifically, it is building community in online high school students. So it's been something we've run some tests. I built a virtual campus and our students have been playing around in that. And so that, for me, technology or technology companies that can have, an actual impact.
Yeah.
So that is, where I'm at right now is an educational impact, and what we can do with mixed reality has, an actual well-being, and social emotional connection to it. So, technology that has an impact, emerging technology that sort of levels the playing field is the kind of spaces that I like to play in.
And did you say you're just about to submit the final? So you're just about finished?
Just about finished.
Wow.
Yeah. Should be.
Fascinating. So this is quite interesting again.
I'll finish in the next couple of weeks.
Well, it kind of goes along with there's always something else going on, because people will take on a role which is higher pressure than most people ever have and still want more.
Yeah, I think people...
And it's challenge, really, there is.
Particularly in New Zealand, there's a lot of people who are very comfortable with the norm. And so when you look around, you can ask your should I do this thing? People quite often talk you out of it, or no, like that's going against the grain, or just do this role, or what have you. But you realize once you try doing it, so you try to do multiple things at once. So I'll always have a, be it study or another, another consulting thing, or I sit on some advisory boards as well. There's always something going on in addition to what I'm doing. So I think once you realize you can do it, realize you can do a lot more than actually what, a lot of people would say you can do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people always ask me, like, do you sleep? Well, how do you
sleep?
Do you sleep? That comes up a lot. And I'm like, yes, I sleep. But I just think, you can be really productive with your time and do a lot of interesting things. So, whatever is next will be something impactful with technology. I just love the new tech. I'm too much of a magpie, though.
I'll go after the shiny thing.
Yeah, always the shiny thing.
Have you got some examples of where that hasn't worked?
Oh, I think it's, in my role, it's probably just more distracting for people. It's just like, I just built this little app over the weekend to fix this problem. So you have a look at it, and they're like, we actually have other work to do than look at this. So, that type of piece, or, building this virtual campus.
Well, I think
here you go.
VR's sat a little bit in that space, isn't it? It's because I love development and innovation for the sake of it, pure, because it will find a use at some stage.
Yeah.
But I think, a lot of virtual reality was a solution looking for a problem for a while. But when it works incredibly well.
Yeah.
But I have a memory of someone that was in my team who loved VR. And he said, we should do our meetings on VR. So this involved sending me a headset so it was compatible, and then taking about 15 minutes to get into the meeting space. And then about 15 minutes later, I had to quit because I was feeling a bit queasy.
Yeah.
And I couldn't always find him in the space. He's like, it's great, we could be on Jupiter. But the irony was he actually lived quite close, and we could have walked and got fit to do that. But then when I've seen it use it for safety training, for things that you never want to experience, like a fire on a warship or something like that, you can't train for that in the real world. And that was incredibly good. And I did something actually. I went through a course on teaching butchers about the different cuts of meat, something quite different. It was such a good use of the technology. And so sometimes you have to go through the shiny thing phase to find that what glitters sometimes is gold.
I'd say, VR is one of those, even as we're trying to reintroduce it, you get a lot of groans because, 10 years ago it was hyped to be this big thing, didn't eventuate. The technology, both from a hardware usability, building an environment took developers months. You had, an entire team to build one environment. And so it never really took off. And yeah, it's actually trying to find the use case for it. And now it's sort of starting to make a little bit of a comeback, but more in the gaming space predominantly. And then obviously Apple Vision Pro has tried to get off the ground, but incredibly expensive, and they don't necessarily have enough apps yet to make that work.
I've never even seen one actually. I've seen them advertised, but never one in a shop or anything.
Yeah, they're in the US, but I probably wouldn't spend that much on sort of a new thing. The Magpie Me was very tempted between that and the Meta Ray-Bans. I have to talk myself out of buying every new technology that comes out.
Yeah, I have this, this approach of, ways of justifying things. It's like, I'm in the space of new technology, so I do need to find out. But I avoid buying too many gadgets because I definitely found with music, the more gadgets I bought, I used to make a lot of electronic music. The more I bought, the less I made. So I kind of moved out of that space and sold everything. Funnily enough, once I sold all of my electronic music, I started a band again. That worked out.
We should have had your music playing as a soundtrack.
Or if I could find it recorded.
Yeah. Have it on in the background.
I'll send you a link. We recorded our couple of gigs that we've done, the most recent ones, which have gone well, but no, that's good. Hey, so if you were how does what you've done line up with when you were young, what you thought you were going to do? So say when you're studying or whatever it might be, around that age, late teens, starting a career. If you could have met something out then, how have you diverged from that? Quite a bit?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Well, I think at that time, really all that was available to me and being in a small town, it was more of your classic careers, right?
Where did you grow up again?
Dunedin. So you've got, doctor, lawyer, accountant. So I was going to be an accountant at one point. Then, I wanted to be a mechanic. And then once I found the sort of HR space and I got into that, immediately I sort of had my sight over the last 10 years on CEO and have really consciously been working towards that. But it wouldn't have been, I love technology. And when I was younger, I used to build computers for fun. I was trying to learn to code and all of that stuff. But I didn't really see it as a career option because, again, it was something just a little bit, it was like a hobby more than anything. So never really thought that. But now it makes kind of perfect sense. I had this people side, technology was a hobby. Now kind of bringing it into like technology and leadership has been a perfect combo. But I never would have said, CEO of an tech company.
Because you can look back on it and you can say, oh, yeah, this fit that and that fit that and that fit that. But again, a lot of people I've talked to, some people are very defined. Oh, I want to be CEO of a big retail chain or something like that. And they do it. But a lot of people, particularly in the entrepreneurial space, they do things that interest them and then they end up finding something that fits. It's like finding jigsaw puzzle pieces all over the place. And it's like, that's random. It all fits into this jigsaw, but you weren't expecting that picture that turns up, right?
Yeah, you're just following what interests you, where you see a problem, you gravitate towards it, and then it just sort of naturally, becomes this cohesive story. But it was, only really for the last 10 years has felt more cohesive because I had a plan in place.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great chat. I've learned heaps of things that I didn't know, even though we've known each